Hello everyone, happy you could be here. Let's dive in. Sit at My Grave, Season 3, Ego's Death, Chapter 7. Well anyway, since you're here, I guess I'll just have to cancel my buddies. What do you want to do? Easton questioned. He walked around the counter, still went back to his beanbag seats, lugging his bottle with him. I was actually hoping you could take me somewhere. Or in ecstasy followed him again. Right now? Night's still young, I suppose. Easton thought it over. Where did I put my keys? He muttered, starting to fool around. Not now. I have a flight to catch. Could you drive me to the airport? Arden questioned. Easton frowned. Arden braced for a lecture like with Ren Lee, but soon Easton's face relaxed. Yeah, sure, why not? Hey, will Ren Lee be there? Easton asked, arching his eyebrows up a bit. No, she didn't really want me to go on this trip, Arden explained. A look of frustration and disappointment washed over his face. She didn't really like the fact that I came over here either, he explained. Ugh. Can't ever get a hold of her. She used to be so easy before, Easton mumbled. Huh? Arden questioned, walking a little closer. Nothing. It's just you spend your whole life with someone, you think they wouldn't cut you out completely. But there she goes, being dramatic again. Easton slurred, laying back. Arden began fiddling with his necklace, watching his dad. He didn't think he'd be talking about Ren Lee this much, but she always seemed to come up in conversation. He really wasn't sure how to respond. It didn't matter, he figured. At least Easton would be the one to take him to the airport, so that headache was over. And his over Reed, too. That was it. She didn't get that angry till I mentioned him. Even in death, he's found a way to screw me over. It's like our bond meant nothing to her. What a horrible way to treat the love of your life, Easton continued mumbling. Arden froze. Like a sharp bite to the chest, the words sliced through him. His hands went clammy, while his stomach felt like a whirlpool. His eyes sharply stared at his father's, peeking at him before he was laid out. He felt sick. His mouth went dry like it was stuffed with cotton balls. He looked the other way for a lot of other things people told him about his father, and even witnessed for himself. However, hearing him, after all this time, still talk about Reed's death so casually, so carelessly, it twisted something in his gut. He didn't know how else to feel, or what to say, but disappointment was weighing heavy on his shoulders. He didn't have the right to judge his father's views on Reed. He himself had judged him harshly too, and went as far as to get him murdered. The difference was, his actions had been torturing him. He had a desperate need to right his wrong. But Easton, he didn't seem to care. He wanted to believe he did, though. Maybe he was just getting too drunk and didn't realize what he was saying. Dad, don't you miss Reed too? I mean, he was your son. Or next. He felt like a foolish child asking this. He shouldn't be getting so bothered. But there was a small part in him that hurt seeing his family so broken up from what he once thought it was. How could he still long for something that maybe never existed? Miss what? Hearing that smart mouth? Him always getting to mind and Renly's business? He was good for helping with you and some of those bills or whatever, but that's about it. What a terrible way to waste my life on Reed. Don't make me think about him. I'm getting a headache. Honestly, it's like he did that on purpose. He's such a fighter until he really needed to fight, huh? Easton rambled on. He stood up, beginning to pace around. Arden watched in silence. Seeing his father blame things on his brother like that was a gross feeling. The words coming out of his mouth weren't what disgusted him the most. It was the fact that he knew those mannerisms seemed familiar. He had felt so happy and calm about being there. But again, he was showing he was wrong. He decided talking to him was no good right now. He just held on to that faltering hope that Easton didn't mean what he said. Do you have an extra room I can sleep in? Arden asked. It wasn't that late in the day. The longer he stood there, the more agonizing it felt listening to Easton right then. Huh? Oh yeah, any room with a bed is yours. Want some help with your bags? Easton asked, getting up. Arden shook his head. That's okay, he told him, starting to walk off to check for a room. I don't mind, Easton insisted. He staggered off, grabbing one of Arden's bags with one hand, softly dragging it with him, while he followed Arden, keeping his bottle in the other hand. It's not every day I get a visitor. Put in a good word to Renly for me when you go home, would you? Easton joked with a wink. Arden frowned a bit. She doesn't want to talk to you, Arden told him. He wasn't sure if it was best to say that, but hearing Easton keep rambling on, mentioning all the people he cared about, was getting tiring and awkward. Of course she does, Easton said, walking closer to Arden, who had finally found a bedroom and was about to enter. Before Reed came along, I was her world, Easton chuckled fondly. Well, not anymore. She hardly mentions you, Arden mumbled. Easton frowned. Don't catch an attitude with me, Easton grimaced at him. I'm just saying the truth, Arden sassed back. Maybe she doesn't say my name around you, but she definitely wants me back. She just gotta get over all those crazy emotions and get back to her senses, Easton informed him. You know how women can be, he chuckled. You need to sober up. You sound stupid, Arden told him. He didn't mean for it to come out as rough as it did, but he realized his mistake when Easton got a terrible look on his face. What did you just say to me? Easton questioned with a snarl. He was growing tired with Arden's little remarks. I invited you into my home, so you need to treat me with some respect. Don't start talking like a punk. You sound pathetic, just like your brother, Easton yelled. It wasn't incredibly loud, but Arden wasn't used to Easton raising his voice at him at all. Reed was a good person. You don't get to talk about him like that. He's not here to defend himself, but I will. Arden found his voice and yelled back. He was fed up hearing him talk like that. He didn't like the comparisons to his brother that pushed him down, but he didn't like anyone talking bad about him either. Reed nor his mother were there to defend themselves, and it felt wrong. A spark in his chest ignited in him briefly. He didn't want to let this happen without saying something. He wouldn't let it just go by like he did with Ted. What gives you the right to talk about Mom like that? Arden began saying, but Easton cut him off. How many times do I have to tell you? Shut up, Reed! Easton shouted before hurling his bottle at the wall beside Arden. It cracked in half with a terrible crash of glass shattering to the floor, the liquid splashing out harshly. Arden froze for a moment before stumbling to the other side. His heartbeat quickened. His eyes got wide. And as soon as he could tear his gaze from the broken bottle, he looked at Easton, mouth gaped open. Arden thankfully hadn't been hit, but his adrenaline was pumping. Couldn't tell if Easton missed hitting him on purpose or not at this point. Hadn't expected him to attack him like that. That disappointment came back like a dark fog covering his body, pulling him down. He told himself he shouldn't be scared. This wasn't worse than what Ted did to him. But looking at his father's face, his hero, suddenly, all the things he'd done seemed to pile up. Easton was no one's hero. Maybe Arden didn't have the right to judge him as a person completely, but he had every right to judge him as a dad. What he saw before him was a disgrace. Arden, I didn't mean that. I've just been so stressed, and I swear for a second you look just like your brother. You know I wouldn't hit you. You aren't hurt, are you? Easton sloppily questioned. Arden was finally pulled out of his trance hearing Easton's words. He swallowed stiffly. Listening to Easton just felt like trying to decipher for himself what would happen next, rather than taking his words for any truth. Come here, Easton said, moving past his chunks of glass. He brought Arden into a hug. Arden just struggled out of it. I'm going to bed, Arden told him bluntly, then went into his room, closing it behind him. Arden, come on, we can talk about this. It was just a little accident, Easton called out. He stayed there for a while, hoping he'd open up, but when he didn't, he just left to his own room after clearing the glass up.